Welcome to the Emergency Preparedness and Response, Planning and Preparing for a Workplace Emergency First Quarter Safety Training, presented by Matthews HR and Safety Consulting Services. Please note this training is going to be a general training and you will need to find your specific duties in the event of an emergency from your direct supervisor or your host emergency preparedness team. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as OSHA, requires your employer or host facility to provide you with a safe environment to work. In the event of an emergency situation, your employer or host facility is required to have an emergency action plan that describes how you are expected to react. You must be trained in the plan, which lists emergency contacts and procedures like reporting fires or other emergencies, evacuations, and rescue/medical operations. Emergencies can create a variety of hazards for you in the impacted area. Preparation plays a crucial role in ensuring you have the necessary equipment, know where to go, and are always aware of how to keep yourself safe when an emergency occurs. This training is designed to help you adequately prepare for and appropriately respond to emergency situations in the workplace. After completing this training, you will be able to describe the various types of emergency situations you may encounter and how to prepare for them, explain the importance of an employer's written emergency action plan, and discuss appropriate ways to react to emergencies. In simple terms, emergency preparedness means anticipating and preparing for potential dangers. Your workplace emergency preparedness involves 3 key steps: recognizing various types of emergencies, understanding your employer or host facility's emergency action plan, also known as an EAP, participating actively in your employer or host facility's training and practice drills. For any organization, emergency preparedness involves all employees. Natural disasters are naturally occurring events that may cause serious destruction and injuries or loss of life. They are the result of some force of nature such as droughts, earthquakes, floods, landslides, wildfires, tsunamis, hurricanes, avalanches, volcano eruptions, or tornadoes. According to the United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction Agency, since 2000, an average of 341 climate-related disasters per year are recorded. Severe weather refers to any dangerous change in the climate that may cause significant social disruption or damage to property. Examples of severe weather include thunderstorms, high winds, blizzards, ice storms, extreme heat, or extreme cold. According to the National Weather Service, 522 fatalities and 2,143 casualties were reported in 2018 due to severe weather conditions. Total damage amounted to almost $5 billion in that year alone. A chemical spill occurs when a hazardous substance is accidentally released during transportation, storage, or use. Spills can be categorized into 2 types: incidental releases or emergency releases. Incidental releases of a hazardous substance that can be absorbed, neutralized, or controlled at the time by employees in the immediate area or by maintenance. These releases do not pose a significant safety or health hazard. They tend to be very limited in quantity and carry a low risk of exposure and toxicity. Incidental releases can normally be cleaned up safely in accordance with the Substance Safety Data Sheet, or SDS, and proper personal protective equipment and training, without the assistance of emergency response personnel. Emergency releases cannot be controlled by area employees or by maintenance. They are uncontrolled or likely to result in an uncontrolled release and emergency responders from outside the immediate area are needed. Examples of emergency releases include those that require employees to evacuate, pose conditions that are a danger to life or health, pose a fire or explosion threat, or involve high levels of exposure to toxic substances. Workplace accidents can occur due to a variety of reasons, including factors in the workplace setting, a heightened risk associated with completing a particular task, a lack of training, or even human error or negligence. Many workplace accidents require first aid or medical attention. Slips, trips, and falls are some of the most common causes of workplace accidents. The potential injuries you may encounter from a slip or trip include concussions, dislocation, sprains and strains, bruises and contusions, fractures, abrasions and lacerations, and even impalement. A fire is made possible by 4 components: oxygen, heat or another ignition source, fuel, and a chemical chain reaction. Without each of these 4 elements, a fire cannot begin or continue. In a typical workplace, a fire could start from any number of potential sources of heat or ignition, including things like electrical sources, welding sparks, or smoking, just to name a few. Oxygen is found in the workplace air. Chemical spills, trash, or gas leaks may fuel a fire. Over a recent 5-year period, the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, documented almost 43,000 reported fires at industrial and manufacturing facilities. These fires cost U.S. employers over $900 million. In addition, the Bureau of Labor Statistics estimated that workplace fires and explosions caused on average 161 deaths annually in healthcare. An active threat occurs when a person or group of people deliberately create an immediate threat or present an imminent danger. Active threats can include situations involving an active shooter, sniper, bomb, terrorist threat, and/or hostages. The most common active threat is an active shooter. A 2014 FBI study identified 160 active shooter incidents in the U.S. from 2000 to 2013 that killed or wounded 1,043 people. We strongly suggest, as part of your emergency action plan, to have a checklist for each of the different areas so that staff will know what to do and who to contact in the event of an emergency. An emergency action plan is a written document or oral instructions that help employees understand the correct way to respond to an emergency. It also provides instructions for the successful shutdown of critical operations. According to OSHA, many employers, but not all, are required to have a written EAP and review it with each employee. Upon initial assignment, when the employee's responsibility or designated actions under the plan change, or when the plan changes. Those with under 10 employees may have an oral EAP plan. An EAP should address all possible emergency situations. OSHA mandates that an EAP include the following minimum elements: the method for reporting a fire or other emergency, procedures for emergency evacuation, including exit route assignments, procedures for employees who remain to operate critical plant operations before they evacuate, procedures to account for all employees after evacuation, procedures for employees performing rescue or medical duties, names or job titles of individuals to contact for more information about the plan or an explanation of duties under the plan, This is also important for those who are working at a host facility. You'll need to know what their evacuation plans are, what you are to do in the event you have patients that are on oxygen or unable to ambulate themselves. So it's important that you get the specific information for your different host facilities. In addition, although not specifically required by OSHA, you may find that your EAP also includes a list of all possible emergencies and consequences, detailed list of all personnel working on site, including their home telephone numbers, their duties, and their responsibilities, floor plans for the work locations, a list or map of all headcount locations, large-scale maps showing evacuation routes and gas, water, and other utility service lines, instructions for handling spills of hazardous substances, information on the types of fires and how to handle fire extinguishers, specific training on how to handle each situation is not required for all employees, just those individuals responsible for assisting with evacuations. All other employees will review the EAP with the employer or host facility. During the training sessions, you may learn about the various types of emergencies which may occur in your organization and how you should respond to them, including evacuation or shelter-in-place procedures, how to inform emergency response, and what to do in the event of a situation happening during an emergency situation as well. During your training, you'll receive information regarding your employer or your host facility's emergency contacts. Your training should also cover any hazardous substances you may encounter while at work, including where to find the safety data sheet and what to do in the event of a chemical spill. In general, practice drills should be conducted at regular intervals and whenever any procedure changes. These drills will help reiterate what to do and where to go in an emergency situation. All employees should participate in these drills to help mentally prepare for these events, should they arise. In healthcare facilities, the Agency for Healthcare Administration in Florida does require these be done more frequently and that it happens on all 3 shifts. In the event that you are working an overnight shift, please find out how you will be aware of a situation, since most of the time patients should not be interrupted overnight, and so they might not sound the actual fire alarm. Emergencies can occur at any time and without warning. The better you are prepared, the better will be your chances of surviving the emergency. When emergency situations arise, don't panic. Although emergencies require rapid action, the most important factor in effectively handling the situation is to remain calm. Next, follow the instructions you were given in your employer's EAP. Determine the nature of the emergency and follow the plan. Each emergency situation is going to be different, but at a minimum, be sure you know how to report fires, spills, and other emergencies as instructed by your employer or host facility's EAP, the route you are assigned to take during a site evacuation, and who to ask for more information. When it comes to emergencies, effective communication is critical. There are 2 types of communication, internal and external. Internal communication involves transmitting information amongst all employees. Your employer or host facility's proactive internal communication efforts may include things like marking emergency evacuation routes and exits, displaying workplace safety signs, and visually identifying first aid locations, to name a few. On the other hand, some of their reactive internal communication efforts may include sounding alarms and announcing emergencies over the intercom. Your employer or host facility's external communication strategy should include procedures for initiating help from external responders. This can include reaching out to request police officers, a fire truck, etc. It's up to you to understand your employer's expectations for when you should personally call for outside help. If you do end up calling 911, be sure to provide the information necessary for them to arrange for assistance, but keep the message short and clear. Depending on the type of emergency you experience, external communication may also include reporting the incident to utility companies, or in some cases, the appropriate governmental agencies. Typically, the employer will designate individuals to handle these types of external communications. In cases of a medical emergency, first aid must be made available as early as possible. In fact, OSHA requires employers to adequately train selected employees within their facilities to perform first aid if a hospital, clinic, or infirmary is not nearby. If you are not a designated or trained first aid provider, the first step in getting someone the medical assistance they need is to call for help. Be sure you know where telephones are located and what number to call in the event of a medical emergency. Your second priority is to protect yourself and your coworkers. Remember to treat all blood and other potentially infectious material as if it is infectious, and never offer assistance without proper training and personal protective equipment, even where first aid kits are readily accessible. Stay with the injured person and then step aside as soon as a qualified responder, like an emergency medical technician, arrives. This training was designed to help you adequately prepare for and appropriately respond to emergency situations in the workplace. You should now be able to describe the various types of emergency situations you may encounter and how to prepare for them. Explain the importance of an employer's written emergency action plan and discuss appropriate ways to react to emergencies. Please contact your direct supervisor or your host emergency response team with questions on your specific assignments in the event of a workplace emergency. Thank you for attending and have a nice day.